with me for a moment. I'm going to highlight some of your professional background, if that's okay. Yeah, take a seat. It's going to take a minute.
Yeah, you guys know me from the commercials, so believe everything you hear.
Yeah. All right, so bear with me, folks. Let me introduce to you Mr. DeMaio, candidate for California's 52nd Congressional District. Oh, yeah, let's get rid of this, swap this out. Here we go. Carl DeMaio knows how to reform government, and he has built an entire business and political career on making broken government programs work again for the people. At age 23, yeah, he's only 24 right now, no, just kidding. 20 looks very young. At age 23, Mr. DeMaio started his very first company, the Performance Institute, to provide training and consulting solutions to help financially troubled government entities cut costs while improving performance. Mr. DeMaio won a seat on the San Diego City Council in 2008 and helped turn the city around from the brink of bankruptcy through his, quote, roadmap of recovery, end quote, reform agenda. Mr. DeMaio is now tackling fiscal reform policy in his new role as chairman of Reform San Diego. In June of 2013, Mr. DeMaio announced his candidacy for U.S. Congress. Mr. DeMaio's work began in a watchdog role as he helped uncover the fiscal crisis in the city of San Diego after years of financial crisis, draconian service cuts, crumbling roads and infrastructure, and little action by city leaders on a host of pressing problems. Excuse me. Mr. DeMaio stepped forward with a comprehensive reform agenda to fix the problems. Mr. DeMaio advanced reform through a variety of ballot measures, gaining voter approval of measures to subject city services to competitive outsourcing, ban discriminatory union-only hiring deals known as project labor agreements, and converting the city to a strong mayor form of governance. While on the city council, Mr. DeMaio led the effort to cut red tape on small businesses, reform the city's contracting processes to expedite infrastructure projects, and enact some of the toughest sunshine law open government requirements in the nation. In 2012, Mr. DeMaio crafted and led a citizens campaign to qualify and pass the Comprehensive Pension Reform Initiative, the first of its kind measure to switch San Diego from a defined benefit pension plan to a 401k retirement program. Mr. DeMaio's measure also figured out how to legally reform vested pension benefits for existing employees by freezing pensionable pay and ending abuse such as pension spiking. At age 30, Mr. DeMaio had founded 2 successful businesses. In 1998, he founded the Performance Institute and built the organization to the largest government reform think tank in the nation and the leading authority on performance-based management in government, law enforcement, nonprofits, and schools. In 2003, Mr. DeMaio founded the American Strategic Management Institute, which provides training and education in corporate, financial, and performance management. And in late 2007, he sold both of his companies to Thompson Publishing Group. Dubbed a new generation Republican for his moderate views on social issues and success with government reform, Mr. DeMaio, with his partner Jonathan Hale, live in Rancho Bernardo. Welcome, Mr. DeMaio.
Sorry for the long introduction. Mainly, I'm here because I built a whole company based on what you're doing. And that is adults trying to acquire skills and best practices to make a difference in their communities. Performance Institute is a good government group, and we focus on 4 areas: training employees in government, managers in government, kind of learning what the private sector has done and what other government programs have done, and then translating that into structured training programs, certificate programs. We had 11 programs at one point. I think they now offer 7, ranging from performance management to project management to Lean Six Sigma in government, which is a process improvement methodology that the private sector uses. The Institute also focuses on research and best practices, consulting, and then conferencing. We would find common challenges that programs faced around the country. Racial profiling, recruiting and retaining social workers, using technology for case management and foster care. I mean, these are all things that when you have thousands of counties, thousands of cities, we pretty much provide the same sort of services, and there should be no trade secrets in government. the notion of the Performance Institute is that we go out and find some good solutions and then find ways to get those solutions in the hands of managers so that they can apply that for the betterment in their communities. What you're doing is you're listening to a number of speakers who are in a variety of positions about what they've learned along the way, and hopefully they can impart some ideas to you that will make you more effective in your current job as well as you continue trying to make a difference in your community. And so let me just talk a little bit about some things that have been helpful for me, and I give advice to anyone on. Number one, don't take the easy road. Don't take the easy road. If you think that something is wrong, be the one who speaks up. If you think that there's a powerful group that may go after you if you speak up, don't worry. Being raised by Jesuits when I was orphaned at 13, the Jesuits have a very strong philosophy on life. And one of the things that the Jesuits imparted into me was the fact that short term, it can be really comfortable to be quiet. But long term, you will not have done the right thing. And so even though short term something may be very painful, make sure that you're doing the right thing because you will never regret long term. When I spoke out in the city of San Diego against a Republican mayor at the time, Dick Murphy, I got a lot of criticism from Republicans. They said, why are you criticizing a Republican? He's a Republican. You're not supposed to do that sort of stuff. And I said, look, it's not about his party label. This is about the fact that we have a financial crisis in the city, and he's denying it. Mr. Peters is denying it. The city council is denying it. We need to be A, honest about where we are, and B, we need to start getting onto the solution. We have to take action. And I was, pretty much a skunk at the garden party on a lot of issues back then. When people said we didn't have a financial crisis, where pensions were perfectly fine, they're so sustainable, nothing needs to change. The averages are minuscule compared to what the private sector earns. We knew that that wasn't right, and that we needed people who would speak out and then provide thoughtful data, obviously, so that the public knew what was going on. Or the new City Hall project. I was sworn into office in 2008. This is before this huge real estate market collapse. And I was talking to some advisors when the proposal came in. We need to build a new 1 million square foot Class A office building downtown, 35 stories high, at the cost of $400 million. And they said, we'll save money if we do it. I said, I don't think this is a good approach. So I sat down first with commercial real estate experts. And they said, Carl, we advise clients, we look for leading indicators. We see a supply problem, oversupply in the market. And sure enough, within 24 months, we were 32% vacant downtown. It was 1 out of 3 acres or square feet of office space completely vacant. Now, what does government do in that market where we have a glut of supply? We dump 1 million square feet of Class A office space into the market at the wrong time. I said, look, our best strategy is when you have 32% vacancy, as a tenant, you are in a really good position. So let's renegotiate our rates. I had a lot of people who supported me in council come to me and they said, we're developers. This is a project we support. You need to support this because we supported you. And I said, I appreciate your support. I thought you were supporting me because you know I'm a reformer who's going to do what's right. And I don't agree that this project is what's right. Wrong project, wrong time, wrong structure. And we successfully blocked the project. What did we do? Today, we've renegotiated our lease rates and we're saving $4 million annually. Those dollars can go right back into our services. I also said it was the wrong priority. If you're going to be doing a project for infrastructure, it shouldn't be a new city hall. It should be streets and sidewalks and libraries and roofs and rec centers, the basic things that are being neglected in the neighborhoods. I took heat for taking on the Downtown Redevelopment Agency, CCDC. Donna Fry and I were partners in that. She's a Democrat, I'm a Republican. And I said, look, downtown's been an amazing renaissance and success story. Redevelopment worked, but there comes a point where we have to say that redevelopment has to do a return on investment. They have to pay back the public for what we've done. And I said that the redevelopment agency, which took money from the city's general fund and put money into redevelopment agency, that they needed to start carrying more of the burden of redevelopment projects downtown. We found two in particular, Petco Park and the Convention Center. Now, if you type in Petco Park and you type in the word redevelopment, you'll find that it is used as the poster child of successful redevelopment downtown. But do you know who's paying the debt service on Petco Park? The city's general fund, not the redevelopment agency. So what they did was they set up a redevelopment agency, took general fund money to do redevelopment projects, then they came up with a model redevelopment project and said, hey, general fund, go pay for this. We were like, Don and I were like, what? This is a redevelopment project. I mean, we still have, things to do in our neighborhoods. So we were able to lead an effort to get that money back and transfer the debt service for Petco Park to the redevelopment agency. I made a powerful enemy who then later on spent a bunch of money, this was reported in the UT, behind something called the Sunshine Project, where they dug up information about my partner Jonathan, bouncing around foster care in his teenager years. And as any foster kid does, has some problems. That was my reward. If I were to do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. After the 2012 election, the unions, the labor unions, spent millions of dollars against me. In particular, $3 million in the last 9 days of the election flowed in from government unions to oppose me and to put Bob Filner into office. In January, after the election, I went to AEI in Washington and I gave a speech on pension reform, and they said, the unions, made you a target because of pension reform. They put a lot of money in against you in your race. Do you regret it? I said, not for a moment. I'd surrender the mayor's race in a heartbeat, knowing that we got pension reform done in San Diego. I don't know what the future holds, but I will always know this. And you can disagree with someone, and you can actually be wrong. But what you can always say is, at the time, I felt this was the right thing to do. And it is incredibly liberating, no matter what the outcome of your decision. And so I would just impart that advice when it comes to public service. We need more people who don't worry about the short-term pain. Think about the long-term right decision that you can look back on 10 years from now and say, yeah, I really took it to the head, but I thought I was doing the right thing. I did the right thing. And some of us can be wrong on an issue. You can in your gut think, this is the way to go, and then you look back on the data and you're like, yeah, that wasn't really the right way to go. But at the time, you were acting from a genuine, honest belief that this was the right way to go. You take that approach in your public service. It's better than any advice I can offer you. And if you're a Democrat and we disagree on things, I still want you to take that advice, because it means that you're being genuine. Other things that I think are real important is challenge the data. When we started looking at pension reform, we had a bunch of lawyers who said, oh, you can't do that. Now, a lot of times what the lawyers mean is, it's never been done this way before. Not, you can't do that. So things I would always ask, people who'd say, well, you can't do that. They're trying to take an idea off the table. Don't do that decision. I said, well, look, I'm the decision maker. And so I'll decide whether we should do it, but I need to know whether I can do it. So if you're saying that I can't legally do it, can you show me the citation where it says, the law says you can't do this? And what you'll find when you challenge a lawyer is they say, well, the law doesn't particularly say you can't do it, but it's never been done this way before, or it's not advisable. And you're like, no, you're the lawyer. Your job is to find out whether the law says I can't do it. If the law doesn't say I can't do it, then we have to go look at the risk of litigation and potentially a court saying you couldn't do it all along. If you don't think it's advisable, that's your opinion, but the decision on whether something is right or wrong as a policy decision is the decision of the policymakers, not the lawyers. So in pension reform, we had people tell us, you can't reform vested benefits. You can't cap pensionable pay. You can't change pension benefits even for new hires. I mean, all these things were floating out there. We're like, okay, who says this? We got some outside legal counsel who are not part of the municipal law culture, and they came up with some of the most groundbreaking legal strategies for dealing with this. And that's how our pension reform initiative was born. And it now is a national model because it's the only pension reform initiative in the country that has been sued 3 times in 3 separate courtrooms with 3 separate judges, and all 3 outcomes have been to uphold our pension reform approach. And now it's the template, the playbook for where pension reform is going across the country. Policy innovation means that you sometimes have to really take a look at a challenge and try to force yourself even to step outside kind of the traditional, assumed, right way to do things. The best approach on issues is asking just questions. Just keep asking questions. Well, why are we doing it this way? And where does it say we have to do it this way? And what are other jurisdictions doing? Going out there and canvassing for different views, different ideas, puts a lot of ingredients on the table, and you start seeing patterns, and you can come up with some pretty good policy innovation. A lot of the challenge in public sector and community service is that we are so stale on ideas. I looked at the city council and saw that city council members rarely put their own ideas out there. Not even the mayor would put their own ideas out there. Where did our ideas come from? They came from the bureaucracy, and they came from a review by the city attorney. And it doesn't mean that those people are wrong, but it may be. The third point is being a savvy negotiator. And being a savvy negotiator requires two elements. And you may think that they're in conflict with each other, but it's like a life cycle of a discussion. First is you gotta stake a bold position and hold your ground. Number one. You're not a savvy negotiator if you throw your cards down on the table and say, have what you want. No, you gotta actually come up with a bold idea and say, I've got a 10-point plan. And you know what? I'm not backing down unless we do all 10 points. Absolutely, we're gonna do all 10 points. And you build a burning platform, you build the rational case. Mainly, data doesn't win arguments. It's motivation wins arguments. And so you try convincing an individual not only that data-wise this is a good way to go, but it's in your best interest that if we don't do this, if we don't reach agreement, that failure is worse than actually the medicine I'm trying to serve up. You have to go in pretty aggressive with your idea. But you have to look towards that final landing zone, which is you're never going to get 10 points. You're never going to get everything. People who are hard-headed, people who say if you compromise, it's a bad thing. No, compromise is not a bad thing. Compromise means that you got something done. Now, you want to make sure you get the most that you can in the compromise, but compromise is the vehicle by which we get things done. Compromise in business happens all the time. You have a negotiation. We dicker about the price, and two sides kind of come together and you settle on a price. There's nothing wrong with that. There's actually a transaction that's been made. But if you say, I'm not going to pay anything for that, or I'm going to pay $1, an absurd price, you'll never buy the product you want. And if the other guy says, no, I want $100 million, and never gives a little on the price, they're never going to make a sale. They're never going to make a sale. And so whenever we would get out of 10 points, if I could get 2 or 3, that's a win. And then congratulate your partner. Congratulate them on, I'm so glad that we were able to take this step. This is real progress. This is important. And then pause and wait. It doesn't have to be said immediately, but at some point say, but we still have more work to do. And that's when you then take out the 7 or 8 or 6 points that were not agreed to, and reintroduce and repackage to try to continue to move forward. The big government wasn't built overnight. It's not going to be reformed overnight. Big mandates in the business world were not imposed overnight. These costs were not mandated on our businesses and our economy overnight. You're not going to be able to, in one fell swoop, do away with it all. But you can make improvements, and there's nothing wrong with that. So those would be the 3 things I would talk about in terms of public policy change. It's not easy. It's not a pretty process. I guess I'll close on that. I ask a question to all candidates. It's the same question. You're running for office or you're already in office. Name one issue that if you could wave a magic wand and make a difference on, make a change on, get your way on, that you'd be willing to surrender your political career over. That you would be willing to lose your next election or resign your seat. Name that issue. And if they can't immediately spit one right out, boy, they're in the wrong